Good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome to our this evening session of customer engagement, which is going to be addressed by none other than Soundari Mukherjea, who lives in Hong Kong. Before we get on to the session, may I request Xenia to please introduce India Assets. Thank you. Over to you, Xenia.
Good evening, everyone. This is Xenia from India Assets Daily. A very warm welcome to one and all present here. India Assets is India's first real estate wealth tech company servicing individuals with a combination of innovative technology and on-ground expertise. As a rapidly expanding full-stack tech-enabled research and data-driven organization, India Assets delivers unparalleled customer experience, offering real estate wealth management solutions to individuals to manage and grow their entire real estate wealth on a single platform. With the goal to bring in a new level of efficiency for investors, buyers, owners, tenants, residents, and other individuals in the secondary real estate sector, India Assets provides expert advisory for products for real estate wealth maximization and management. Headquartered in Bangalore, India, India Assets is driven by an executive bench of ex-bankers, industry stalwarts as mentors, and a strong tech engine. India Assets app is also live on Android and iOS. Managing more than $1 billion AUM across 10,000 plus customers, India Assets currently has offices in 5 markets in India, namely Bangalore, Hyderabad, Mumbai, Delhi NCR, and Chennai. Over to you, Rema.
I would now like to take the opportunity of introducing our speaker, Ms. Soundari Mukherjea. Soundari is an organizational consultant, business storytelling coach, faculty, mentor, facilitator, visual thinker, and speaker. She likes to call herself the Chief Everything Officer at Soundbites 11 and believes life is all about connections and serendipity. She helps leaders and teams drive business outcomes, build a personal brand, and be more human at work through storytelling. With over 25 years' experience in the areas of finance, operations, banking, and entrepreneurship with Unilever, ANZ, her firm TSol, and now in her new venture, Soundbites 11, in Hong Kong, Middle East, and India, she has an insider's view on the challenges that organizations and teams face, and this drives her passion while working on consulting and capability building projects. She is known for cultivating and maintaining mutually beneficial business alliances by deepening client engagement, relationship building, and through extensive community involvement. When she's not working with clients, chatting with her children, family, friends, or reading books, you will find her at the tennis court or working on a pottery wheel. Ladies and gentlemen, we all hear about cultures of countries and all of that. But now we have to speak about the culture of an organization. And this is what we are going to hear from Soundari herself. Over to you, Soundari. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rama. And, just let me know if it's all audible and clear. Okay. Yeah. I'm very happy to be here. Thanks again, Rama, Raghu, and the entire team for setting this up. It's a lovely way to spend a Friday evening. Culture, it's a small word for such a big construct, right? So as a young management trainee, 30 years back, I got a glimpse about culture. I was in the first week at Lipton. I was posted at Kidirpur factory in Calcutta. I was supposed to be with the factory manager and he was on leave. So the commercial manager who was supposed to spend time with me was doubling up on 2 roles. So he didn't have much time. He left me with an operations manual in the conference room. As luck would have it, the group head of HR visited the factory at the same time. And he asked me, so how is the factory doing? What are you noticing in terms of packing efficiencies and things like that? All of which I had no answers for because I was stuck in the room with a manual. And that was my quick glimpse into knowing that this was an organization which took pride in people taking initiative instead of waiting for somebody from head office coming in. And it was also another point to me that my opinion mattered. So really going out there, noticing and speaking up was important for a place like Unilever. And that was my glimpse, and while various people can take different things from it, for me, it was that, yeah, organizational culture, sometimes we think it's a hazy thing, it's a subjective thing, it's the mood in the room, perhaps that feeling of pressure or psychological safety, but it's shaped by the personalities and behaviors of who works there. So my plan today is to just trigger some thoughts by sharing some experiences around culture change work, some examples, some actionable insights based on what I see around us. So how does that sound? Yeah. While we do that.
Yes, Soundari, it sounds good, and I think that would be great. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Rama. While we do that, I also hear from who is logged in, and if you can keep an eye on the chat for me, on what some of the challenges your organizations are facing and what's your focus today. We've all gone through, these hybrid workplaces and so much of changes that's happened in the last 2-3 years. While 2023 is different in terms of the pandemic, we are still facing all that. So, I would really like to hear from the people logging in, what's really their focus for their organizations as we go along. And Raghu, if you can help us get started on this, that'll be really great.
Yeah, okay. Pretty interesting insights that you started off with. But, if you look at culture as a subject, whose responsibility do you think it is? Is it of the employees or it is the organization? I mean, how do you take this forward?
No, great. Again, great way to look forward. So I was reading this article which talked about a 2015 strategy meeting that the authors of the article had attended with leaders of Fortune 500 company.
Okay.
And the word culture came up 27 times in 90 minutes.
Wow.
That's how important it was. And just to tease this idea out about whose responsibility, we hear about working really long hours. We feel it. We've done it in our careers. So one day, the head of HR of a global engineering company noticed an employee's hard work. So the head of HR decided to speak to the CEO and recommend the employee for a CEO award. And what they detailed in that was that how the employee has been working 16-hour days.
Okay.
Now, the CEO thought about it and acknowledged the hard work that the employee was doing. Great. But he decided that he didn't want to reward that hero behavior, as it was developing a culture that he didn't want to promote.
Okay.
The CEO wanted to reward people who are coming up with innovations, who are doing faster process, not long hours. So the CEO personally spoke to the hardworking employee, recognized their work, but did not make them as an example to the entire company.
Okay.
So we need to be mindful of what metrics we are rewarding. And that is culture setting as well.
Okay.
A few months ago, I was speaking in a podcast where we were talking about, taking ownership. So, to tease out whose responsibility it is. Yeah. So the focus in that podcast was about individual motivations, ownership, bringing your whole self to work. So basically where you're taking responsibility for your outcomes and you're being empowered to make those decisions.
Okay.
And if you flip the coin, the other side is the leadership.
Okay.
And we all know how important the company culture is to the business, right from operations, employee experience to the bottom line. And the pandemic has taken leadership back to its most fundamental element, which is making a positive difference to people's life.
Okay.
Right? It's about creating a safe environment where you can guide and support your team members. We saw that during hybrid as well. Acknowledge success, learn from failures, creating stronger connections between people, raising the level of trust, and so on and so forth. And while the bottom line is important, these are equally important to help the organization to go towards the goals, but they're not easy. They're crucial, but they're not easy. And 2020 Gallup poll talked about the percentage of people who are emotionally vested in a job. So I want you to take a guess, and I encourage the audience also to put it on chat. What percentage of employees do you think were vested in their job, emotionally vested? Take a guess at a number.
That's a good. Okay, till such time that we get some replies from the people who are watching across.
Why don't you take a guess, Raghu?
Yeah, I would say what 40%.
Okay. I don't know what's coming on the chat.
Yeah.
We can validate that.
Yeah.
It was actually only about 20%.
Oh. Okay.
So which means 80% of the people. So in a world population in November 2022 of 8 billion people, about 5.7 India's worth of disengaged people are there in the world.
Okay.
You just get a reference of, the numbers.
Okay. So taking a cue from your own point that you're speaking, even during working hours or during the work schedules, India, US, across, we find a lot of mental health issues, emanating out of various different work cultures. We read in daily newspapers or social media posts that, so-and-so guy has jumped from a building, or a lady has jumped. We hear this on a day-to-day basis in Bangalore, also being an IT hub. What is your take on this? Do work pressures really give you mental pressures?
No, absolutely. I think as much as we would say that work is just one part of it, for a lot of us, work is a big part.
Yeah.
It not only gives us the autonomy, it helps us show our competence, and we want to belong in our workplace.
Yeah.
So the environment in the workplace and what we do as work in terms of arts, people, everything is very crucial. We are not a different person at work and home. We are the same person. We are not carrying that. So definitely, building right from small things like building psychological safety. Is your coffee machine working? Can be a big negative. Are your toilets okay? That could be a big negative. So right from very small things to obviously bigger things like having a toxic work culture, a work boss, anything could be a triggering thing. And I don't trigger much in this conversation, but I want to look at it from the other side in terms of saying that how do we create those positive work cultures? How do we create a place where people are coming in, they're feeling secure to be creative, they don't work in a way that is transactional, but they're working with intent and purpose, they're fully engaged, they're connected. So let me give a contrast to examples. So I remember that in Clairol, which is a brand which has these shampoos called Herbal Essence, the CEO called Steve Sado, he took over Clairol in 1991. At that time, the company had a significant decline in sales volumes. And Steve was like, one time we used to do so well. This was the most creative company. What happened here? And he says that he remembers going to a very creative person who did all the packaging and creative development. And he says, why don't we do anything creative here? And that person just opened his drawers in the desk and started showing off all the wonderful work that he had done.
Wow.
And he was asked for it. They had worked. So part of the role as a leader is to create an environment where people, innovation and creativity can thrive, and it's okay to fail. The other side of it is a positive reinforcement, which happened with another leader. And so this is Archana Pachirajan. She was the founder of an Indian technology startup called Hubble.
Yeah.
Early 2000s. So she realized that she was really running short of funds after working on that project for a long time with a group of people working in India and in the US. She realized that she had to call the staff in for a meeting and tell them, I'm so sorry, we're running out of funds. I can't pay you anymore. I have to let you go. And this we see happening now, right? A lot across the world.
Yes.
But when she said this, she thought the entire team of engineers, all of them were highly qualified and they could have got, lucrative positions anywhere. They would just say, oh, really sorry to hear this. They would pack up and go home.
Okay.
But they didn't. Instead, they said that they wanted to stay with her and they were willing to work at 50% of their original pay.
Wow.
And Archana just obviously grabbed that offer. And over the next few years, the team worked so hard that...
So the environment in the workplace and what we do as work in terms of hours, people.
2013, they bought this company out for $15 million.
Wow.
And Archana's team still continues to work remotely with her on these projects. And again, I want to ask the people on the chat about what do you think made the employees stay in this case?
Yeah.
I will add that tidbit in the meantime, because, in LinkedIn Live, sometimes it's very difficult to be very interactive. Various members of contact.
Soundari, there is a reply to your earlier question is what is the percentage? There is somebody who has put it as 30%. There's somebody called Ranganath Nerur who says 30%.
Yeah. And we found out that it was actually 20%, even less than that, right?
Yes.
Really low number. Yeah. So in this case, what had happened was that various members of her team were contacted and asked, why did you stay back? And each individual talked about the connection that they felt for their leader. We all used to work as a family because she treats us like that. She knows everybody in the office and she had a personal relationship with each and every one of us.
Okay.
So, this is the contrast, right?
Mm.
There's one organization where you're just putting your head down and working, and there's another organization where you're willing to stake your career and jobs to go for ahead.
So is that also a reason that most of the creative agencies where we see, or even say real estate offices, they're very creatively designed with lots of colors. Does it play on the minds of the employees? Possibly energizing their mood to stay in the workplace for longer?
Well, I don't know about the longer part. We would definitely like them to be happier. So, moods and colors. I'm no color coach to talk about this. I'm sure colors have moods which are reflecting. But I think the whole idea is to create an environment where work is... That is something that we've forgotten. As kids, we used to play. We are okay to play as children. Okay. But as we become adults, we lose that joy of looking at things with curiosity and also being very playful at our workplaces. And play is very, very essential part of being creative.
True, 100%. And now, of course, the world went through, this enigma called as COVID for almost 2.5, 3 years. And, people had to virtually work from home. How did this affect now that, you're not meeting your own people, in the offices whom you spend almost 12 hours a day, but now you're secluded in your own houses and trying to do your work. Did that affect the work culture or disturb the balance largely globally?
Like anything which is new, change is difficult. Human beings struggle with, we are all peoples of habit, creatures of habit. Change is difficult. So, the standard thing that I always ask people to try is, if you were to cross your arms, there's a certain way that we cross our arms. All of us do it in a certain way. If I ask you to unfold and cross it the other way around, we don't even know where the arm needs to go, whether it's the left or right or right. So change is difficult. And the same thing happened when we had to obviously work from home. The infrastructure, whether we had the infrastructure to work from home or not, whether we, had the surrounding around us, what was the system in our house? Who are the people there? Did we have small children who had to be supported? Did we have old parents who need to be supported? So all that, work literally entered home.
Yes.
So it was not work from home, it was work into home in that sense, right? So it did make a difference. But I think also some of the innovations came during this time. And it was because people decided to be that catalyst to make that change. And I know this is something that I've talked with Rama before, and it's something that we both really like. One of my favorite innovation stories was at a hospital in Brescia in Italy in March 2020. The hospital had about 250 coronavirus patients in its ICU, much greater number than it could have, was equipped to serve. And this caused a big problem that the hospital was running out of respirator valves.
Oh.
Now, the valves, as we all know by now, we've all become doctors in some ways,
Yes.
a crucial component of the machine to keep the patient alive. But there's a sudden spike in demand, not just in Italy, but also around the globe. So which means they were in short supply. So an Italian journalist, so technically not somebody connected with the medical field, Nunzia Valini, she said she would connect the hospital with the local 3D printing company called Isinova.
Okay.
The CEO of that company, Christian Fracassi, and the mechanical engineer, Alexander Romeali, they went over to the hospital to look at what do respirators and what do valves look like. They had never 3D manufactured medical equipment before. Okay. The thing is, obviously, the designs are intricate. They needed small holes to be there, and those are difficult to print on 3D. Okay. Now, plus the valves have to be used for medical purposes. So you need to create a clean environment, handle only with gloves, sterilize your hands, something that a 3D printer is not equipped to do, or anybody with a 3D printer can't just get around to doing. Okay. But they felt this was the need of the hour. Their city, their country, the world needed it. And they mocked up a prototype in less than 3 hours. Okay. And they tested it on a patient. It worked well. And then they went back and they started printing new valves in their 6 industrial printers. They roped in another 3D printing company, Lonati, to support them because the numbers that were required were very large. And they churned out over 100 valves in 24 hours. And less than €1 kind of a thing. And this is something that was never done before. So, they also were open enough to distribute the design to 3D printers everywhere. So you had a non-medical team, which was working on a medical device, and it required a catalyst like Nunzia to really make that connection. Okay. So we talk in organizations, you need these people. You need these people who are multipliers. Liz Weissman is a leadership expert. She talks about multipliers and diminishers. Okay. These people can amplify the skills of everyone around them. So you need people like that in organizations, not, where you can work well.
Oh, lovely. Okay. I mean, that's an interesting insight that you gave about, merging medical into management. Perfect. But how does one build a robust work culture? How does one build your experiences?
Yeah. There are some of these culture trends which are coming up. OC Tanner is one organization which tracks this. One, we have people are expecting more from work. Correct. Right? They just don't want it to be a place where you just go in the morning, clock your hours and come back. Correct. The workplace is becoming more of a community. I mean, there are book clubs in workplaces. There are marathon clubs in workplaces. There's so many things which are more community driven in work.
Yes.
To this, we are also having an issue that leaders are also burning out. I mean, leaders are not coming from the heaven. I mean, they also are employees at the end of the day. They are human beings. They are burning out.
Correct.
Then we also need a shift in the skill sets. Earlier, we needed a lot of specialists. Now we need a lot more generalists who are able to connect the dots around the specialists as well. Correct. And all of us as human beings, we want rewards, we want recognition. So we want to go to a place where we have autonomy, where our competence is valued and we belong. And some organizations are managing to do it. And I saw this in Twitter. There's an ad agency called Maitri Works. So somebody who's employed there had tweeted, I don't know the name of that person because I know him only by his Twitter handle. He, in 2016, he left Ogilvy and Mather and moved to Maitri Works, and it's in Kochi. He moved there because his wife wanted to work in Malayalam films. So he moved there and he was going to be based there. And what he saw is that once he joined there, you think about everybody is nice, he says. Not fake nice, not corporate nice, not lip service nice, genuinely nice.
Okay.
On day one, when he joined, Muthu, one of the founders, he asked, do you need any help moving into your new house? He hadn't got his internet connection. So he sent Gopi from accounts department to sort it out for me because this person didn't speak any Malayalam. At the annual party, the company was giving gold coins to everybody, especially if they had a baby that year, so that, you have a new member in the family. Maybe there are more expenses. They gave 3 people motorcycles to come to work. They did, the management would step in for any of the personal problems of its employees. A new guy joins from out of town. The second founder, Raju, gave him a spare scooter. And I can go on and on. But these are the kind of things that organizations are doing to be part of employees' lives. So it is not just at a corporate level, but at a personal level. Of course, when organizations become really large, this kind of personal touch changes. So how can you create smaller communities within your organization where the support system still exists? So you're then cutting literally, copy paste to scale.
Yeah.
This worked in Maitri Works. Now, how can we create multiple Maitri Works within an organization? I think that's how we are building cultures. So
you're saying rewards and awards do actually make the culture within an organization far more stronger, and the community starts expanding within. Is that indirectly you're trying to imply?
No, definitely, but they don't need to be necessarily cash or thing. It's also I think creating, we all need to recognize and show our gratitude. People today talk about gratitude journals, but every day in our organizations, in our lives, we are finding these people who are amazing. They come and the room lights up. They're so helpful to everybody. Like I said, they are the multipliers. They're creating that kind of culture within the organization, and you can call them culture builders from a culture perspective. And we see a lot of them. How are we acknowledging them? Are we learning from them? What is it that we can do to pick up some notes so that we are driving culture as an organization? It cannot be one person doing it. So it cannot be a senior management. It can't be somebody in the middle. It can't be somebody, who is like just new joinee or new entrant.
I think it has to be a collective effort, Soundari, right? A collective effort at all levels. Yeah.
At all levels, and it has to be continuous. So it's building culture is almost like creating a movie. You have all these different scenes that you put together to improve that culture.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Another. I'm just taking another direction. Of course, India is moving ahead with a long list of youngsters, being part of the work culture. Now, of course, work culture has been evolving over a period of time, but these youngsters' expectations are far too different than someone who's 50 plus and someone who's 20 plus, right? So, have you had any experiences that the youngsters need of what the culture within an organization takes them to? Any case studies that you could mention about, please?
Yeah, I think maybe we won't have time for a case study, but what I will definitely talk about is some of the things, I definitely expectation from the generation which is coming in. And this we might actually say about every generation which came in. Right? Previous generation, like I've heard enough of my dad tell me that, we walked without slippers to the workplace. We did this, we did that. All of us, I think, have heard enough such things. We'll be doing the equivalent of that for the next generation. So there's always that difference in the generation, but I wouldn't call it necessarily a disconnect, because each of us are different as well as people in terms of our expectations from there. I think a lot of it is about clarity of the roles and expectations when people onboard, which during COVID, during online life has been very difficult. And just to give a small example about what happened here in Hong Kong. So there's a bank called Hang Seng Bank, and they had onboarded some management trainees. And this was right at the beginning of COVID. So March 2020, April 2023, around that time, give or take a month. And one morning they saw that a few of the management trainees had put a Facebook post or Insta post, all of them hiking somewhere, during work hours.
Okay.
Now, the organization took a very strong outlook about it, saying, no, these are work hours. You're supposed to be, doing your onboarding and you're supposed to be at your desk and doing. Now, it is I would question it a little bit. Yes, there's some bit of fairness. There's an onboarding process and procedure. You log in, do X amount of stuff. But hey, going out on a walk together is the greatest way to build a team. So there were these bunch of people who were organizing their own team building activity, so to say, and they were getting to know each other. They were going to be working together. But because you're regimented by the hours, you're trying to put those guardrails down. This looks off.
Okay.
So definitely there is a little bit of a communication issue. Of course, from a HR perspective, I would say that it's not fair to the others who didn't go for the walk. If I had informed the whole organization that your hours are flexi, as long as you focus on output and outcome, rather than look at monitoring your time, I'm only going to look at impact. In fact, this is, though written from a more digital lens, there's this very nice article called The Permissionless Organization, written by Rita McGrath and Professor Ramcharan. And it's just come out in the latest Harvard Business Review. It talks more from a digital point of view, but I think this is the kind of organization we need to move forward. And that's the expectation from the generation. They don't want to be guarded by all these rules. Look at the impact that I'm making. I'll sleep till, 11 in the morning. I'll be awake till 2 a.m. in the morning. I will get the work done.
Yeah.
So a lot of scope for asynchronous work. And we are seeing it already when we are working across borders.
Yeah.
Right.
No, but then what happened was during COVID, people, workers largely had extended hours of working because they did not have to travel. The systems were at home. They had internet connection. But did that actually matter to the so-called work culture in an organization? Did it?
I'm a bit of a believer in in-person connections. So while I love now no other choice, but we love meeting online. Raghu, I would love to come to Bangalore and meet you, or I'd like to meet you in person. So that personal connection does definitely matter. The fact that today I'm able to have a very easy conversation, Rama and I, despite the fact that we've not seen each other for so many years, is because of an initial relationship credit that is there in a piggy bank. We already have that going. And it is difficult for people to do that always. So we need to create ways of making that happen.
Okay.
So to that extent, it's not, definitely have the flexibility, work your hours. I think we need to build that flexibility in the system automatically. You need to take your kid. Earlier, it was all permission driven. Oh, I need to go at 4 o'clock to drop my kid because there's some show happening there or something. Why do you need to ask? Why do you need to tell? As a team, if you can work together, and I really believe that if you can work synchronously without that permission culture, but with a responsibility culture, where you can work with trust and know that the work will get done.
No, but this is fine when it comes to service sector or IT sector, because you can do something remotely. But you're suppose in a typical manufacturing sector, or say, for example, in a media sector where your physical presence is very important. How does this differ?
Yeah, no, I mean all of this didn't happen till it happened, right, Raghu? True. Media also thrived during when there was lockdown for COVID.
Yes.
Number of ads that were produced. And a lot of celebrities, I remember a lot of the celebrity ad, there was a Diwali ad that was produced, which had celebrities across all over asking people to go local and buy products from their Kirana Dukan nearby.
Correct.
Each of them recorded their own segment. They did the thing. Somebody joined it together, put it. It looked wow.
Yes.
So we come up with alternatives. When push comes to shove, we find a way out. And it's not jugaad. I think it's creativity in that sense. So it's not just, and sometimes we need that push to find these solutions. Okay. Unless we are in the crunch mode, we don't seem to be necessarily finding these solutions.
In fact, one of my very close cousins who works in US in a large technology companies, I don't want to name. So when he entered the US, he said, Raghu, the guy who sits next to me does not even know my name, but I know his name because I'm an Indian. At the same time, what happened? And one day, I think the other guy's car was in service, and this guy was coming in his car every day. So he said, Satish, will you drop me home? Because I've seen you closer to my house somewhere walking around. So till such time, because he needed his help, only then he realized that I should network. As you rightly said, networking plays a very, very crucial role in work culture, taking the work culture forward. And people above 40 and 45, they still believe in networking, but the larger, younger crowd believes more in what you call internet connection kind of networking. So does that also differ the cultural connect that they have?
You connect the way you connect. So you also connect the way your audience connects. Like we always say that, audience before content, ABC is what I use for things. So similarly for them, if they are connecting with somebody in their age group, they have to be where everybody is. So if they are on Snapchat, they have to be on Snapchat. If they're on Discord, they have to be on Discord. So you choose a platform where your audience is, which is what the kids are doing. And I think that's great. We come up with new technology things to do. So my mother learned to use the Mac when she was 70. Yeah. And then she decided that she wanted to learn Facebook. So she asked my daughter to teach her, and she's still to date, on Saraswati Puja, she's my guru and she taught me kind of thing. So I think we need to be open to learning both ways. A lot of organizations create these things called shadow boards, which is a composition of a lot of the youngsters in the thing to give ideas. And especially when we are looking at companies digital first now, this comes intuitively to that generation. We are not digital natives. We are digital migrants.
Correct. True.
So there's so much that we can learn. I mean, my nephew taught me how to even write on Twitter. Not that I have a large presence, but recently some of this knowledge, no knowledge gets wasted. Recently, I had an issue with Samsonite luggage repair. We found out that the repair place was really somewhere very far away from where we are. And we called the local Samsonite or shop, and they said, no, you have to go there. So I just tweeted about it saying, and I have close to negligible presence, and I'm not a large presence on Twitter or anything like that. But I tweeted about it, tagging them, saying that, this is not fair. We used to be able to give it somewhere close by. How can you expect what kind of a customer service to have one location in the entire, Hong Kong SAR? They messaged me, they DM'd me, then they had the customer service person calling me. Then they offered to we had already dropped the luggage by then. But Joe Chung from that office, he reached out, he kept in touch with me, and they delivered the luggage back to my house.
Oh, that's good.
I had to go and collect it. And this is the Chinese New Year time now. So they gave me, there are these red packets. So they gave me a bunch of red packets. They gave me a nice bag, which was designer, this one as a, just as a way to say, sorry, we should be more careful about it. So I think sometimes using some of these media brings out results in a different way. So this is also culture of shows. For me, it showed so much about the culture of Samsonite. Yeah. That a small complaint from somebody who is inconsequential will still be taken seriously. And the customer service representative has the leeway to take a decision. We used to talk about the Ritz-Carlton $2,000 rule or whatever. This is Samsonite doing that.
Yeah.
And that speaks a lot about the kind of culture that they want to build.
Okay, taking again, cue from your own subject that you were speaking. Now we see that large number of international IT technology brands have been sending people home for various reasons. So let's not discuss that. But what do these people who have been, told to vacate their offices carry the culture, back with them? I mean, is there an example that we say that yes, they are carrying a positive culture, or just sending them home was a negative impact or whatever?
Yeah. No, totally with you. I was thinking about this, in fact, because I was reading this article about Microsoft layoffs specifically.
Yes.
And one of the things that was highlighted about it, and we all know about Nadella as somebody with a growth mindset, somebody who believes in, don't have the know-it-all, but the learn-it-all attitude. So one of the things that, and this is very challenging. So at some level, if I'm getting laid off, no matter how thoughtful anybody is about eliminating the work, I don't have a job. I don't have a paycheck. That's the reality of the situation. But I think it can be far less terrible when it's done with empathy. And one of the things that Nadella used in his statement is that he said, we'll treat our people with dignity and respect and act transparently. Correct. These decisions are difficult. Obviously, the company is not doing well. It's going to impact people and life. Correct. So he said, we will be thoughtful and transparent. Yeah. And that's dealing with a bad situation, still with a little bit of empathy and in practice. And it's not just words. Again, if they're words, they're just values on the wall. Correct. Practically, they said that they will provide employees with above market severance pay. They will continue healthcare coverage for 6 months and continue vesting of stock awards for another 6 months. Yeah. And we saw some other company, which we will not name. I've named them already in a previous conversation. The employees are still waiting for severance. And the company announced layoffs without any notice, mass email layoff kind of a thing. Yes. Right. So it is a difficult situation. There is no two ways about it. And, it can't be easy. But we do remember some of this. Yeah. And I feel especially when things are toxic, we worked in a toxic culture where something has happened, this kind of mass firing, we make a change. There's there's that whole thing about, because mother-in-law was also a daughter-in-law before kind of a thing, but it's not. So there's this lady, Patricia Salume, who found out that the consequences of very early in her career, she realizes the consequences of corporate culture in which managers fail to take responsibility, that encourages toxic behavior. And she kept that in mind when she founded her own digital company. She owns a company called Veelu, which is a payment approval system company for kids to shop online safely. So she worked for an organization in London where, the staff were not allowed to disagree with senior managers. They were micromanaged. Every day-to-day decision had to be approved. People were very aggressive to the staff who were deviant in that sense. Okay. And her line manager was not keen on doing any of the difficult chores. So they had an employee who had severe health issues, was only working part-time for a long time. And HR decided that they needed to reduce her salary. Now, this situation went on for a long time. Her manager should have taken the cue and had that conversation. But that manager waited to promote Patricia and left her with the task of breaking the bad news. Okay. And that didn't go down well. And almost everybody around was demotivated by the culture. There were lots of absences. And you were talking about work-related mental health issues. Yes. This is exactly the kind of thing that causes it. Office was full of negative talk and all that. So when what should have been her promotion, it should have been a great growth opportunity for her. It became a nightmare. And it affected her performance. And when she talked to her line manager about this, his response, he just blamed her, saying, you don't know how to communicate with senior leaders. But luckily, she had that little bit of confidence, though her confidence got knocked a lot. Okay. She eventually left that organization and she realized that now when I set up my organization, I'm going to be very careful about how I interact with my staff. I will actively seek out team members' opinion. I'll encourage them to challenge decisions. We just don't want people to sit back and follow instructions. And we don't want that fear of failure to be part of how we work. We want them to succeed. And it's okay if there are some failures on the way.
Okay, my next question is largely again, which is a very, very popular subject, startup culture and culture. Okay, startup culture is driven by a lot of targets, a lot of deadlines, making early exit, making early entries. So there is a lot of pressure, unlike in an established firm where the pressures are much lesser. So, and here also the employment is more of the younger generation which comes into play here. So, have you come across situations or instances where they have had issues about the work culture because the entry is early, the exit is also many times early here. So unlike established places. So any of your experience which you would like to share?
Yeah, sure. But before I do that, I just want to have a quick check. Rama, anything on the chat that we should be aware of? I've not been tracking it.
Yeah, no, we are tracking it.
Okay,
I think
great.
last 10 minutes we'll give you for that. Yeah.
Yeah,
We
sure.
have something. So I'm tracking it. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thanks. So, a lot of the times, early stage startup founders ask, when is the right time to build the culture?
Yeah.
Is it, and typically it is with the first employee.
Yeah.
But the thing is, startup is difficult. Hats off to all the startup founders who are putting in their passion, their heart and soul into a project that they're committed, trying to fight for investors, trying to find the right resources. You need to do your marketing, you need to do the VC conversations, you need to do your pitch decks. They have so much, hundreds of different things to do, and you need to get your customers ultimately, because that's what is going to validate your model. So you're spending a lot of time trying to get the right revenue, the right return, and maybe, obviously a lot of problems with the customers, employees, and all that. So you have so much going on every day. So building culture there tends to, if you have to look at the Eisenhower matrix, it's important, but it's not urgent.
Okay.
And Soundari, just to add a little to what you're saying, but I think a lot depends on the kind of industry that you are in, and also the demographics of the organization, the age group of people, the country to some extent, the culture of the country. I think there is a kind of a bearing. It has a bearing on all of that to some extent.
No,
Not
definitely.
largely on the organization per se. Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, cultural aspect, we cannot, the cross-cultural thing, we cannot take away. That's for sure. But there's also a lot of imitation thing that happens. The startups, the initial startups that we've all seen are like, say, Silicon Valley startups. So then that's our way to look. We've looked at Shark Tanks, which are in the US. So the Shark Tanks behave in a certain way. So there's a lot of that copy thing that happens, part of it. But yeah, definitely the culture of how work is done, say maybe a place in Europe might be different from a place in US, maybe different from a place in India for sure. But I think for the culture part of it, the focus, if it doesn't start right at the beginning, then there is going to be an issue about misalignment. There's going to be huge communication gaps. I've seen it happen with a few fintech firms which have started and have had to, rethink again. Yeah. And by which time the founder is drained out. Again, the founder draining out, the founder's health issues are also very severe. If you don't build it from ground up, if you don't move culture building into that important, urgent, immediate category, it's going to be something that's going to affect for sure.
Okay, here is a question coming from a management consultant. He says, do the managements have taken real interest in building a strong work culture within an organization?
I mean, that's slightly too generic.
Only, I mean, he's saying because he's a consultant, so basically that's a question that is coming from.
Yeah, sure. No, thanks for asking that. People are working at it, though the current statistics in terms of, I was sharing this the other day, there's about $366 billion that's spent annually on leadership development. Yet only 10 to 15% establish permanent change. So it is a struggle. But I think what we can do is intentionally steer and support building the culture. It has to be leadership at every level, but definitely it is a senior management which has to ensure that it is continuous. Okay. It is not something which is a touch and stop. Tony Say of Zappos said, get the culture right and everything will fall into place. Okay. Right? So that is definitely very much on the top of the list. I mean, there's a great example. Ajay Banga, who is a former CEO of MasterCard, he said, culture doesn't come because you wave a magic wand. Yeah. It comes through hard work. It comes through sharing, through cross-fertilization of people and ideas. And that requires time. There is no, again, magic wand which will set everything right.
Okay. Another question from a management lecturer asking, what is the right balance to basically have a, work culture kind of a balance? What is the right balance? I mean, I know there's no definite definition, but what is the midway approach?
In terms of working hours balance between what and what
work and culture within the organization.
I think culture work is continuous. Every communication that you do, everything that you do builds your culture. So it's a constant communication. You need to cascade it, and you need to be persistent with that exercise. Part of it. There was this person who was posted in China from Singapore, part of Standard Chartered Bank. And when he started, Jung Kyu Choi is his name. And when he started, he was told that, when a new manager comes, the person's job is to go and visit all the branches and ensure that they beat them up, really whip them up to ensure that they are meeting their targets. And he was not keen to do it that way because that was not his style. What he started doing was he would go a bit earlier to the branch. He would have a breakfast meeting with all of them. And in that meeting, he would ask them, what is that I can do to help you do your work? Okay. And initially, they were all skeptical, as it tends to be. Okay, he's come from head office kind of a thing. This is what he's going to say, but this is not what he's going to do. So a lot of skepticism. Then after many months of nudging, slowly they started saying our printer is not working, ink in the ribbon is not there, and small things. And over a period of time, they started bringing in the bigger issues. So they said, for instance, in Shanghai, in one of the malls, they said our branch is opening and closing on Monday to Friday, whereas the maximum footfall is happening on Saturday and Sunday. So the mall branch, can we keep it open on Saturday and Sunday? And this idea came from them. Yeah. And when they did that, obviously the business flourished there. Right. It was only because he provided that safe space for people to raise those issues. And so this is continuous. It is, culture communication is never ending, right from the CEO to the janitor. Everybody has to walk the talk every day. It is part of your DNA.
Okay. One personal question from my side. I'm more of a brand man, like you are. You are building cultures within the organization. Where do building a brand and culture meet for an organization?
Yeah. Again, it's that whole role modeling thing, right? And you know this more. You've been with a lot of brands, just for example, if you're a culture builder, you're a senior person, you need to walk the talk on what you're saying. I remember there was, David Rubinson's interview with Accenture CEO, Julie Sweet. And he asked her, how do you keep in touch with everything that's going on around the world? You have so many consultants. Do you know all the big projects? Do you get reports daily, weekly, monthly? What's going on? What are the problems? Who are the customers and all that? And she says, as much as I have to ask them for those reports, I have to role model it. So I have to lead by example because our business is all about clients. So every quarter she publishes for all her managing directors, how many client meetings I have had, how many meetings I've had with our ecosystem partners to reinforce that our business begins by understanding our clients. So she calls it the proximity imperative, and she spends more than 50% of the time with clients. So somebody sitting and doing that, she's building. Now, if I think of Julie Sweet, even if I didn't know who she was, I'm going to think that she's a person who walks the talk, who's role modeling behavior. So the branding and the culture is like so essential. And we are going to associate, all Accenture people will be doing it. We are going to broad brush it to the organization. So the culture gets painted across.
Very well said. So I'm done with Rema. You have something, please. I think
I think this has been really interesting, Soundari, because you demonstrated each point with a little example, which is a true example. And as you rightly said, it is a combination of different factors that establishes the culture of an organization. And these are lessons we learn as we go along. And we do hope that, cultures of organization works well and percolates down to the employees as well. Thank you for that. And thank you for making time today to be with us. And we shall keep meeting more often. Thank you. Yeah.
No, thank you so much.
It is so nice to interact with you. So nice of you.
No, absolutely. I think telling positive culture building stories is much more easier and pleasant than policing people into culture building.
Well said.
Correct.
Which is
Absolutely.
the work that I do on how do you use stories to build culture. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk about my passion.
Oh, it was very insightful.
Thank you. Thank you, Soundari. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah.
We hope to see you in Bangalore sometime. Yeah.
Hope to be there. See you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.